Welcome to my live today, Wednesday the 22nd of March 2023. I'm not showing my face today, it's hands only. I'm not being camera shy, I'm just not camera ready. So I'm just going to keep talking till I'm standing just to look at my screen. I'll keep talking till I see somebody watching, just to check that I am live, because sometimes Facebook tricks us into thinking we are live when actually we are not. I'm going to share this card today. Some cool techniques, some ink blending and die cutting techniques. Oh, I've got somebody watching. Hi Sylvia, thank you so much for hopping on and watching. I'm not showing my face today. I was just saying that I'm not camera shy, I'm just not camera ready today. I'm on leave and I potted about all morning, was wondering about whether to go live or not, and then I thought yes I will, because I'm on leave and I've got time to do it. And then I suddenly realised that I could also go dancing, because there is a dancing class at 12 noon. So I got my dancing gear on and I've done a dancing class 12 till 1. So slightly dishevelled and yeah, I'm not going to say it's sweaty. I'm glowing. I'm definitely glowing. It was a great class. Really enjoyed it. But yeah, not got my makeup on, so I'm not camera ready. So let's crack on. I'm going to share with you this card today. This is a card I actually had in my class at the beginning of March. So I think I can see Lorna watching. Hi Lorna. Darling, I hope you're feeling much better. I know you're poorly, but I do hope you're on the mend now. Yeah, I hope you're feeling much better. Sending a squeeze and a heart. So yeah, Lorna's made this card previously. I'm just going to share it and share the technique that I used. I've seen similar cards made using a blended background technique but without stenciling, so it's really the stenciling that gives it the nice neat appearance, a nice neat finish. I'm going to change it slightly. I'm going to use a different colour scheme or colour selection of colours for the inks. I just thought let's have a go and change it up. So for this card I think I used from memory Highland Heather, or it might have been Gorgeous Grape, I can't remember, and Calypso Coral, Parakeet Party with a touch of Evening Evergreen, or it could have been Shaded Spruce for the greens. But I'm going to change that up and I'm going to use Evening Evergreen and Granny Apple Green for my leaves, and I'm going to use Mango Melody, and I'm going to use Melon Mambo, just to change up the colours slightly. And I'm also going to use a Evening Evergreen layer instead of the Calypso Coral layer. So I'm going to take a seat. I think I can see people are watching anyway, so that's good. I won't have my eye on comments just for the moment, but if I do want to check back, I'll stand back up. So let's just move my inks out of the way. What are we going to use to make this card? You'll need a card base, and you could use a coloured card base. I'm using a basic white thick card base. Then you'll need a matte layer in a coordinating colour for my original Calypso Coral, and for this one Evening Evergreen. You'll need a second matte layer in basic white, and onto that we're going to do the blending. And then you'll need another piece of basic white that can be bigger, just slightly wider than your first layer, and we're going to use this one for die cutting, and this will serve two purposes: the die cut piece that we're going to pop on top, and it will make the stencil as well. You'll need some inks, you'll need some blending brushes, and I have chosen to use Artistically Inked stamp set just for the sentiment actually, and I've got 2 sentiments out of this set today. And I need to decide, and you can help me with this, whether to stamp another happy birthday, bearing in mind I already have one for my stash, or a thanks. I did wonder about hello, but I think I use a lot of thank you cards. I send a thank you card to every customer who orders with me, along with a little gift. So I do like to have plenty of thank you stamps in my stash, cards in my stash. So choice of two sentiments there. I've got them both mounted on blocks. I'm also going to use the coordinating dies, and they're the artistic dies. These are both in the annual catalogue, and I'm using the big die. I'm going to show you all of them. It's a selection of 8 dies. You get this gorgeous big leaf. You get an outline, several outline stamps actually. Gosh, get my words right. Outline dies. So you get one for this big ink spot. You get one for the smaller ink spot, which looks like a flower. One for this one for the 3, one for that leaf, and one for that leaf. And these stamped images have been designed to look like the alcohol ink splodges. I'm just going to say that we've got this lovely big one as well, which I absolutely love. It looks like not very much in grey tones on the stamp set case, but believe me, if you stamp these, this is a distinctive stamp set as well, so when you ink them and you stamp them, they really do give that image of the alcohol ink swirled imagery there. So really useful way of getting that image and that design without getting messy. So let me just pop those to one side. Let's make a start. And it shouldn't take too long actually to do this card. So I'm going to actually pop to one side my card base and my coloured matte layer and my basic white layer. I'm going to use the larger of the 2 pieces of basic white, and I'm going to bring in my, I did consider pre-cutting this before I came on air, but actually I want to give you a tip, because this die is an intricate, detailed die. You can see it's got lots and lots of little tiny bits, and because I actually want to, I'm going to position it in the position I want it to be on the card with these 2 leaves to the top. Because you actually want it to be in the centre of this piece of white, the tendency is to just position it straight in the middle of your actual die plate, cutting plates. I'm actually going to encourage you to move it as far to one side as you can. Bear in mind that we do want it in the middle of the piece of cardstock. That's not quite as easy as it might seem. I'm going to pass it through the cutting machine once. When it's at the other side, I'm actually going to take it in the sandwich between 2 plates before I actually move it, and I'm going to turn it round so it's now across this side, and I'm going to wind it back through. I'm just going to move my machine so it should be on camera. I'm going to wind it back through to me, towards me. Now the reason I'm doing that, just let me explain the technical reason why I'm doing that, is because inside this part of your die cutting machine are the 2 rollers that actually roll together like an old-fashioned mangle, and you press your cutting plates through. As they pass through between these tight rollers, that's what is the pressure that causes the die to be pressed into the cardstock and make those cuts. Now what you need to bear in mind is I'm using a Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. There are other cutting machines on the market that also work in this way. My machine gets a lot of use because I use it for my own personal use, and I use it in class, so it gets a lot of use. Over time, these 2 rollers will become looser. There are geared mechanisms inside this part of the die cutting machine. They're the gears that turn, and over time, as more and more items are passed through these 2 rollers, they can shift and move and actually become looser than they first were. It's called calibration. So the calibration actually gets looser. So you may have, and I'm just going to try and find something to just let let me just see if I can explain. If you imagine these are two, what's this called? A lint roller. So these are two refills for my lint roller. If you imagine that your two rollers inside the die cutting machine are like this, when the die cutting machine is new, you have equal pressure between these two rollers all the time. As your cutting machine gets worn and is used more, you get less pressure sometimes. If you always place your dies in the middle, then the pressure is always on the middle of the rollers. So you're always going to have pressure just on the middle of the rollers. If you constantly move your die around the plate from side to side and not just in the middle, you will get much more even wear on your rollers. So when you're using an intricate die, I've just dropped her on the floor, it's always useful to move it from one side to the other. Just turn those plates with it in situ and do two rolls. When you turn it over, you can see, I can see I've got some really good cutting going on there. I can't see, there's maybe this area here might be less crisp, so I'm just going to take care when popping this piece out. But hopefully that explanation has helped you if you sometimes use an intricate die and you don't get even cutting, especially if it's a big die like this one is. So I'm taking my time just to try and explain that. And just sometimes we need an explanation as to why things do or don't work, and that's one of the most common questions I get asked, or one of the most common snags that I come across with die cutting is the intricate dies that don't always cut through. So I'm going to lift all of that out in one, and this is the piece I need for my mask, so I'm going to pop that to one side. I'm now going to just use my take your pick tool with the brush on the end, die brush on the end, and the foam mat that comes with, and I'm going to just give that die a good brush all over, and that should expel all the pieces from the actual die, pop everything out hopefully, all the little bits, and it should lift it sufficiently for me to just peel that out. And you can see I've got bits popping out all over, and they're nicely cut through. They've popped really easily, and actually that troublesome piece has popped out. That, well, the piece that I potentially thought might be troublesome has popped out nicely. It's just a few little bits which we can just pop with our fingernails. Sometimes also if you give things a flick like this, it just pops them out. Let's just pull those last little pieces. There's one that looks a bit tricky, but there they are, they're all coming out nicely now. There we are. One last bit, and maybe those little dots in the middle. And I still have no nails. So there we are, nice clean die cut, and I can put my die to one side, and I will bring in my lint roller and just clean those bits up off my desk so they don't annoy me. There we are. So now we're left with a lovely crisp, oh, just one left there, crisp clean die cut, ready to stick on the finished project. And we've got this piece that we're going to use as a mask for our blending. So I'll just pop this piece to one side, and I'll bring in my basic white piece. And I'm actually going to use a little piece of washi tape. Let me just get a little piece of washi tape out of the drawer. I'm going to position that mask directly over my white piece. Now I know it's the same height, and it's just a little bit wider, so I'm going to just position it like so. Now I can see immediately that I've got these two little bits that are overhanging, so I'm going to just tilt that slightly, and just by rotating it ever so slightly it will fit on the page. So I've got that in position. Oops, almost. And I'm just going to use a little bit of washi tape just to hold that down while I do my blending. Now I need to take care not for my blending brush not to go over the edge here, so I'll actually use that corner just to stick down. and that will help mask that corner as well. Let me get another piece. Just stick that over that edge. So that should hold that nicely so I can do my blending now. I'm going to use a small blending brush. So we do now have these blending brushes in two different sizes. So that's the large size and the small size, and they're sold in packs of 3. The small size are in the mini catalogue and the large size are in the annual catalogue, and we're just over a month to go until the new catalogue actually goes live for customers. So which size do I want? Let me have a look. I'm going to use this one for the big flower, and I use a small one for the leaves and a small one for the smaller flower. Now originally when I first did this, what I did was I popped my die back in to the negative space, and I just made myself a little pencil mark on this side of this flower, and that's the only one I actually did, and I just kept my die cut piece next to me so I could actually see the shape of it. I'm going to start with the big flower, and I'm going to do that in Melon Mambo. So here we go, let's have a look, and we'll load our big blending brush up, and I might just grab a piece of scrap. Where is the piece of scrap? Bear with me, I've got some just here. Bit of a messy craft room. Might just use a piece of scrap just to tap that off and just see how it's blending. Yeah, that's blending nicely. So I'm going to do a circle over here for my large flower and just build that up. And I'm eyeballing this and this and just thinking to myself, where does that big flower start and stop? Oh, Melon Mambo. I've not paid you enough attention recently because I use polished pink quite a lot. That's my favourite hot pink of the moment. And of course, polished pink will be in the set of ink colours that disappears this time. And whilst we're talking about colour, we can't ignore the fact that in the new annual catalogue, not only will we have a new set of ink colours, we will have a complete colour refresh. So we don't know what's staying, what's going, what the colour families will look like. Oh, lovely. So this is Mango Melody. I absolutely love Mango Melody. I'm not an orange fan, and I'm not normally a yellow fan, but Mango Melody can't quite make its mind up whether it's orange or yellow. And you see I've got that blob. I didn't knock that ink off, but if I keep blending and bearing in mind we've got this die cut to go over the top, it should be absolutely fine. And I'm just looking that we have that flower, so I want the same colour just down here. We'll go in a circle down here, and we've got another little flower up here, so I'm going to go quite gently just up here. There we are. And then we can do some green and we'll build up some leaves. Just put some lids back on. So yes, we don't know which colours are staying, which colours are going. It's all very exciting. I'm really excited by a colour refresh. In my Stampin' Up life, I've actually been through one colour refresh, which was 5 years ago, and it was really exciting. Particularly as some previous ink colours actually made a return. So that was really nice to see. And of course there'll be some colours that disappear that we love. But it's all exciting, and it keeps things fresh and it keeps things new. So that'll be good. And it's just a week until demonstrators get to see the new catalogue in electronic format, in a PDF, and we get to actually see those colours. That'd be really exciting. Let's build up these greens where those leaves are. I do love ink blending, and this is a really quick project, a quick ink blending project actually. It doesn't take very much time at all to get those colours down. And pop a bit more up here. And now I'm just going to further highlight, and I'm going to, because I've used green on this brush, I'm going to continue using this brush, and I'm going to use Evening Evergreen. And I don't need a right lot, don't need to fully load my brush, and I'm just going to use it on the very tips of those leaves. Just to give it a little bit of an ombre effect to the very edges of those leaves. Let's see how that goes. Just want a little bit more on there. There we are. So far so good. It's all looking nice and messy, but when I pop this on, you'll see that it really brings it to life. But the big reveal is actually taking off this mask and revealing underneath this nice crisp edge image underneath. So like I say, you can actually make a similar card just by swirling some colour without using a mask and then popping the die cut over the top. But I really like to use the mask, the negative image, and get those really lovely crisp edges. And you can see, if you wanted to, you can still see that little bit of a pencil mark, so you can go back in and rub that out if you like. But bear in mind, once you've got this die cut over the top, you're really not going to see that. So it's as simple as that. All we need to do is assemble the card, add that sentiment, and maybe add some bling as well. So let's go ahead. I'll just have a little tidy up and pop those brushes in here. And will you have a little think about which sentiment, happy birthday or thanks, please, and first in the comment. I'm going to just stand up and have a look at comments. Oh, hello Shaz and hello Sheena. And yes, I didn't know whether I was going to, because I'm on annual leave, Sheena. I didn't know whether I was going to go live yesterday or today, and I got quite busy. So let's go with thanks. Lorna was first to comment. Let's go with thanks. Thank you, Lorna, because I will actually fussy cut this. I'll stamp it and fussy cut it. Thanks for that. Let's go. So I'm actually going to assemble this card now. I'm going to stick this layer to this layer, but before I do that, I'm just going to be sneaky, and I'm going to grab a punch from my shelf, because you're not going to see anything except the edges, and I'm just going to bag myself a couple of labels for a different project later on. I can pop those in my labels box. I've got a box full of bits and pieces that I use on projects, so I've got those. They can go in my box. Waste not, want not. Let's be frugal crafters, because all we're seeing is the very edges of that layer. So let's just use the bit that's hidden. If you can't see it, it's not there. Now ordinarily I would say to you, put the glue on this bit. Don't put the glue on this bit. But because I've punched these holes out of the middle, if I put glue on this bit, you're going to get sticky fingers underneath. So I am just carefully staying away from the edges and popping my glue on this matte layer. Excuse me. But ordinarily I would not say glue your mats that way around. Always the smallest to the largest. The glue goes on the smallest before sticking it to the largest piece. So there we are, we're glued there. Oh, excuse me, I've just got a tickle. I'm just going to have a quick drink. That always happens when you're on camera, doesn't it? And then I can stick this entire mat onto my base layer, and I will actually use some dimensionals for this. Let's pop it up. If I wanted to at this point, I could actually put some twine round and have a little bow, little knot and bow, but I'm going to actually just stick with it being plain. Let's pop some dimensionals on. And again, I'm quite a frugal crafter. I probably ordinarily would only go with 4. But there we go. And another tip, I think I've shown you this before, the easy way if you've got no nails to get the backing off your dimensionals is give it a squeeze with whatever nail you've got in your thumb, and then they're easy just to pull off. You're not faffing. And pop all of those in the bin before they stick to your slippers. Oh yeah. Yeah, they just get stuck everywhere, don't they? Let's try and get this on straight. So there we are. Now we're going to stick this piece on, and this is, depending on whether you want it entirely stuck down, you could have used a double-sided sticky sheet, but I'm going to use my trusted method of silicone mat, pool of glue and sticky sponge, which I have to the side of me in the drawer, just an old plastic tub with a piece of sponge that's my sticky sponge. And I'm going to also bring in my little piece of scrap paper, lay my die cut face down, and I'm going to fill that sponge with glue, and I'm going to carefully, just without moving this die on the scratch paper, and I'm actually not going to go everywhere, I'm just going to do a reasonable portion, sort of leaving the edges so I can actually handle the piece. So that gets glue nicely all over the back of your die cut, and now we can stick that down. Another option is you could have just used strategically placed glue dots, or even just dabbed glue straight from the nozzle of your Tombow onto some of the larger areas on the back. But that sponge technique works really nicely. I'm liking the contrast between the two different colourways. Already it looks quite different. It's just giving it a different look, just using a different colourway. So sticky sponge back in the drawer out of harm's way, and I will leave this silicone mat with glue on to dry to one side, and once that's completely dry I can just use a finger in a circular motion and that will all just be lifted off nice and easily. So silicone mat, that's in your annual catalogue, a really useful tool, can be used for all sorts. You can use it as a mat when you're blending as well. Instead of using a piece of scrap paper like I did, you could use a silicone mat. Now I'm going to stamp my sentiment, and I need a slightly bigger piece of basic white, so just bear with me. I've got a tiny piece out. Let's have a look. Here we are in my scrap drawer. Still got a squeaky wheel on my chair. Sorry if you think I've got a mouse squeaking around in the background. So tap, 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 and I'm thinking, is my evening evergreen nice and juicy? Let me just practice that on my grid sheet. If you're ever worried about whether your stamp is inked up properly, use your grid sheet to practice. I think that looks a bit dry, and I'm not sure I've got the re-inker for this stamp pad, so I'm going to get out of my drawer my spreading tool. Now this was something that came in my original kit when I joined up. When I joined Stampin' Up, it wasn't a customizable joining kit. You got the kit that Stampin' Up sent you. You can also use an old gift card or an old credit card, and you can spread your ink, So I'm thinking that my ink on this pad has gone to the edges and the middle's a bit dry. And it's a useful tool to use when you're re-inking your stamp pads, your ink pads. I can just see I've got a hair. It's also useful for removing hairs from the middle of ink pads. Come on, little hair. There we go. Now I'll just pop that to one side, but I will be wiping that later. I'll pop that over there and let's just see whether that's improved things. A little bit, not much. I'm going to go ahead anyway. Let's get it really inked up. I'm happy with that. That's dark enough. But I really don't think I've got the re-inker for Evening Evergreen. I will check later. So now I'm going to actually fussy cut that. I think that's going to look nice on there. I think the other thing that would look nice with the sentiment on here, and I know it looks nice because I actually used this card for my Mother's Day card for my lovely mum, is to stamp the sentiment onto vellum and heat emboss, because then you can still see with the opacity, it's not quite see-through, you know the word I'm looking for. You can still see the die cut through the vellum. Oh, I must find out how to say that. Opacity. I don't think that's right. It's one of those tongue twisters. I'm just thinking I actually have Amazing Thanks dies, but I'm not sure whether the thanks would be too big. And that die cuts the word amazing, you, thanks. Does it cut the word you are amazing? I will find the dies in a moment and have a look. I think that looks quite nice. Yes, I think the word thanks, that sentiment does look nice on there. Let's try and keep my workspace tidy. So I'm just actually going to stick that flat. I don't think I'm going to stick it with dimensionals because I've got this whole layer up with dimensionals. So I think I'll just stick that entire sentiment nice and flat with multi-purpose liquid glue. Then we'll have a quick look and see if we can find some bling to add. And already in my mind I think I know which one I'm going to use. Let's just pop that on. I want to see the centre of this flower. I think that works really nicely positioned just there. So look, I haven't even been, I think I've been on half an hour and we've done the card. A really nice quick card. Oh, squeaky wheel, excuse me while I just find my bling. I've put it somewhere. It's not just on my shelf. I have been using it somewhere else. Let me just grab that. There's my box of bling. My box of current bling, not current bun. I think that I used these pastel pearls for the original card. They're lovely shades of purple, but I was thinking of these because we've got that Evening Evergreen, and these are the solid faceted gems. So I was thinking of those green gems there, or even the pink ones. Ooh, right, I'm going to say another choice, pink or green gems, and I'm going to stand and just wait. Oh, Lorna, you're still poorly, my darling. Not eaten. I'm wondering whether it's oh, what's the horrible winter vomiting bug? Oh, poor you. Oh, pink or green? Pink. Sheena's first. Sheena gets it. Smashing. Right, let's just pop those bits to one side and let's go pink. Now I've got my take your pick tool and I'm going to use my spatula end, and we'll go with the same positioning as the original card. Why overthink it? Let's go 2 big and 1 small, shall we? Let's go for it. 2 big and 1 little one. And we'll pop a little one down here. Yes, those pink ones look lovely. Really nice. So these are the solid faceted gems, and I think that they're in the annual catalogue, but now I'm thinking I'm just going to have a really quick look, double check that in my annual catalogue. I'm pretty sure they are. Bling, here we are on the right page. They're decorative dots. Yes, they are solid faceted gems. They're £7.50, and you get 180 matte adhesive backed dots in 6 colours. They are Balmy Blue, Night of Navy, Petal Pink, Melon Mambo, Pool Party and Mossy Meadow. So the green was Mossy Meadow and not Evening Evergreen, but it still goes really well. And the pink is Melon Mambo, and that's the ink I've used, so that's fantastic that we've actually coordinated that. Thank you for that, Sheena. So that's my card. Same but different. I hope you've enjoyed learning about the using the blending brushes and how to make a stencil with the negative piece for blending and the die cutting, and I really hope that you found my tip for winding through your cutting machine, your die cutting machine, if you're getting those cuts that don't go all the way through with an intricate die, really worth rotating or moving across to the side. You'll find you've probably got more pressure on your rollers at the side of your cutting surface, particularly if your machine has had quite a bit of wear. So I hope you found those tips useful, and don't forget this matte layer here, as you can only see the skinny outline, you've got some cardstock under there. Punch some shapes out. Just grab a punch and punch a couple of labels or a couple of shapes, and you can always use them on a future project, and therefore you're not wasting your cardstock underneath. So I hope you've enjoyed this demonstration, and I hope you'll join me. I may not do a live next week because I've got some other things in my diary, unless I can squeeze an evening live. We'll see, but yeah, hope you can join me again soon. And thanks for all your comments. I will come as soon as I've finished. I'll come on and answer any questions or just say hello back, and thank you for joining. So if you're watching this on catch up, on replay, either on Facebook or on YouTube, please give me a like or a comment if you've enjoyed watching. And if you are on YouTube and you haven't done already, please hit the subscribe button. It really helps. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.